So we're going to try together for the next 45 minutes or so to have a bit of a conversation, to get a conversation going. This is not a way of avoiding doing extra preparation by having one fewer session to fill in. Actually, this was something that Sean was going to take the lead on as we got together. It's trying to model something that for Sean in particular is important, and which I too am persuaded about the significance of, which is the place of conversation in so many parts of the Christian life. I was saying, I think it was in the seminar, wasn't it, just now, that I actually think seeing the church as a conversation is a very helpful model. That our commitment is to participate together in a conversation with one another and with God about what it means to seek the kingdom in our day and age. And part of our covenant commitment is to stay with the conversation. And that involves both listening to all the voices and articulating our own voice and trying in that to discern the mind of Christ and the wisdom of God for this business of mission that God has sent us into. Various people are working with the notion of conversation in relation to mission. So Stephen Bevans is working very helpfully on the notion of prophetic dialogue. How can our mission be both prophetic and dialogical? Sometimes it's been prophetic without listening, and sometimes it's embraced dialogue as if we've got nothing to say. Is there a way of kind of developing a prophetic dialogue as a model for engaging in mission? And somebody who has written, to my mind, very helpfully, or a collection of authors who've written very helpfully about the notion of the church as dialogue, are Ronald J. Allen, John S. McClure, and O. Wesley Allen, Jr. Yes, they're American. And they've written a book called Under the Oak Tree, the church as a community of conversation in a conflicted and pluralistic world. So that's Ronald J. Allen, John S. McClure, and O. Wesley Allen, Jr. Under the Oak Tree, the church as a community of conversation in a conflicted and pluralistic world. So it's partly because of Sean's very deep commitment to multi-voiced engagement in many aspects of Christian life, and my persuasion of the value of conversation as a model for church and mission, that we wanted to do a little bit and try and facilitate a little bit in this session. I'm not entirely sure how Sean was planning to do it, but here's how I plan to do it. I'd like it to be a conversation that's arisen out of the things that we've heard from Stuart and from myself so far, so that we take those and go somewhere with them. I'm going to do it by asking you in a minute or two to break into groups of ideally 4. 3 will do, 5 will do, 2's too few, 6 is too many. Aim for 4. If it ends up being 3 or 5, settle for that. Yeah? And then in your groups, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to address yourself to a series of questions. So thinking back on what you've heard, Tom, I've just had a thought. Is it going to be feasible, as I give these questions out, for you to at least put some bullet point reminders up on the screen as a prompt to people? Thank you. Can you identify something that you've appreciated? Something that's been said that you've appreciated. Can you identify that? Can you identify something that you'd like to add to what's been said? You know, so maybe we've touched on an area that's of interest to you, and you thought, oh, that would be a helpful contribution into that area. Can you identify something you'd like to add? Is there something that you want to ask? I have had 2 questions handed in, and I'll address those at some stage. Is there something you want to ask arising out of what you've heard? And do you know when you've got 3 A's, but then you want a 4th point, and you can only think of something beginning with D? We could say, is there something you want to abjure? But let's settle for disagree, shall we? So even the simple words, Tom, would do: appreciate, add, ask, disagree. Would be fine. Thank you. Bayek, that were quick, lad. So you get the idea, so that to begin with, the conversation is going to start in the small groups, and then after a while, I'm going to sort of see if we can allow that to spill out of the groups into the wider body, and see where that takes us. So listen carefully to what people are saying. Feel free after you've heard from everybody to respond to what's been said in your group, and then we'll see what kind of wider conversation that can generate for us. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of swivel the chairs around if you can. Aim for